Good evening and welcome to News 9. We're live from our studios at North Region, Accra. My name is Kenneth. Yes, here our stories making headlines tonight. Transport fares are up again. We'll bring you reaction from some drivers who justified the need to hastily increase the fares by 20%. Health facilities record low COVID-19 vaccination rate 2 months after government relaxed rules on restrictions. And on the international front, Afghanistan's supreme leader has ordered the country's women to cover their faces in public, one of the harshest restrictions imposed on them since the Taliban took over last year. Details are up shortly. Stay with us. Welcome to the program. Concerned drivers have increased transport fares by 20%. A visit to some stations show that while it is yet to take effect officially from Monday, others have already started taking the new fares.
A visit by Metro News to some transport terminal shows that while some are waiting to increase their fares, others are already charging new transport fares. At Circle or Donna Station, for instance, heads of the GPRTU are yet to settle on a threshold. At La Paz GPRTU station, the fare threshold has already been decided and has taken effect. Gado Abu is one of the leaders at the station. He tells Metro News that they have printed the new fares and have distributed it to drivers for onward communication to members and passengers.
On the 7th, and then 80th fame. But I'm saying, drivers be because passenger bed did or can or when you because I can do an affair by and I say, and that the Nankasa say, Nipper be brave, prices, I say.
Some drivers complained about the insistent increment of fuel prices.
20% increment, by another day start here, by Monday, and then start to say, do a bit more today, by a day start here. Information there at the moment to me saying number for can't hear ma. Now my information say I too fair by a day and Monday, and start here. I have forced 50%, forced 80%, I had to Accra. Every home there, to me, crazy. No, say every room, but well, diesel is a liberty 3 days and 4 days. Yeah, 2 diesel. It's almost 12 cities, 1 liter. Sanka diesel bit number from Kakra, because my at least maybe 10 cities per liter, at least a bit number different. But it's cost you too much.
Some passengers who are unhappy say it is taking a heavy toll on their expenses.
And it's not easy for us. They should look at it for us, because if this, it will be difficult for the people who is doing business. It is going to affect our financial burden. We can't afford it because of sometimes, and some people are in far place, like this Ablekuma, coming to Accra to go and work. Some are in far away. If it is salary payment, they will never get, even if they take their salary, it means they will not have access to any other thing good in their life to do.
Because almost 2 lorry firm cry new 2 months here. And as you see, as to 20%. Let's just say, Yenya a man in bread. Bread, bread. She said, because a Jumaya for in 2 market. Obi this year, a big company increment on a Juma oil, but you have 2 lorry firm 2 times from January to May. two lorry from twice. What I say. And you know, to me, no, the person which is
So, should you jump into a cab or a commercial vehicle, expect to pay a little more from Monday.
All right, so let's have a conversation on this, and I've been joined on phone by the PRO of the Concerned Drivers Association of Ghana, David Agbado, to tell us more. David, good evening. Welcome to the show. Why the decision to increase fares again, barely 2 months after the last increment?
Thank you very much. Let me start rightly from how we ended. Barely 2 months. Yes, it's barely 2 months. But if I tell you, the last increment was in February, was the fuel price then was 7 cedis 99 pesos. But as I speak with you, the price of fuel today is 11 cedis 30 pesos. If you see the intervals, a little is 3 cedis. Let me use my station for instance. Any driver that apply my station, that apply Tema to La Paz, on daily basis, they lose 90 Ghana cedis. That's what they take home as we, in our terms, we say chop money. We are not getting our chop money. So in all this, we deem it right to charge the percentage that we are charging today. Even the percentage that we are charging today is not enough, but we think that is the right way to go.
I see. And was this in consultation with other driver unions?
Yes, this is in consultation of the Coalition of Commercial Transport Operators.
What about the GPRTU?
When I say Coalition of Commercial Transport Operators, GPRTU is part.
Okay.
Protua is part. Tiger is part. Ghana Committed, Cooperative, name it. All the associations come together. That's why we get the Coalition of Commercial Transport Operators.
The last time you increased the prices of transport was 15%, and today you say that you are increasing it by 20%, although you have complained that the 20% is not enough. But considering passengers and the untold hardship that has hit the country, don't you think that is too harsh?
We think this one is something that everybody can cope with, because the actual amount that we need to charge is 33%. That's the actual amount that we have to charge. But yesterday at the meeting, if you come to the meeting where the Coalition of Commercial Transport Operators are having their meeting, you even talk in my favor, because yesterday it's like the whole meeting was centered on me. The 30% was dominated that we, yes, in Akan language, ya breache, se 30 naba, na beto hose yenji. So I told them, yes, we have daughters, we have sisters, we have children that are going to school, that are working. Their wages have not been increased. So if we charge the 30% that we are all talking of, it will bring something different. So we should go by the 20% and then keep the 10% hanging. When the next increment comes, we do adjustment and adjust it in it. Before it take the center spread that we are taking 20% today.
Okay, but the agreement was to start on Monday, so why today?
Yes, you see, as things are going, when we shift it to Monday, we know some things can change hand, and that of the Monday, we cannot even take the money, or we cannot even take, considering 1 or 2 people that will be called and then, have a chat talk with them. To the plight of over 1,000 Ghanaians that will be losing their daily bread, this is what we don't want. This is what we don't want. And that is why we are charging this 20% for it to be sufficient, or not either sufficient, but for it to cushion the drivers so that we can make days in.
And are you not worried, are you not concerned about the hardship the average Ghanaian is going through? Because it looks like everybody is feeling the pinch of the hardship going on in the country at the moment.
It is that hardship that we also feel. That's why we didn't come out with the 30%, but rather we come out with the 20%.
Right. And prior to agreeing with this 20%, was there any communication with government? Did any communication with government take place?
I beg you, communication or having talk with government doesn't exist anymore, because when we were having talk with government, that government was subsidizing the fuel. But as I speak with you, there is not any subsidization. We pay as we go. There is this thing that come in called automatic adjustment formula. It is the automatic adjustment formula that changed the whole situation, and this is how it must go. You see, we are coming with a method in which, if the petrol reach the 10% threshold, it don't be announced as the OMCs and the BDCs do. When you go to filling station, they don't tell you today we have increased the fare, but when you go, the pump tells you, yeah, the price have changed. That is what we also want to come out with.
Okay.
And we are starting with this, and we will get there.
Right. The last time you increased fares, there were reported cases that people were charging more than the 15%. Now that you are increasing it to 20%, how are you going to ensure that your drivers stick to that 20% rule?
Thank you very much. This is, even the one we did today was very simple. You see, we drivers, we calculated, let me use La Paz Afiena as an example. La Paz Afiena, it was 12 cities and 14 cities respectively. We were charging 16 cities 80 pesos and then 14 cities without that 40 pesos added on it. But when the passengers came, we explained, they rather tell that it's 14 cities, 20% of 12 cities is 14 cities, 40 pesos. So with calculation with the passengers, we think it's now even helping than what we have been doing the previous time. This one, you are calculating with the stakeholder who is the passenger. There will not be cheating anywhere. And we think this one is the best.
Okay, David Aguado, thank you very much for speaking to us tonight. Right, let's bring you a COVID-19 related story. As after government relaxed the COVID-19 restrictions, many Ghanaians have been reluctant in getting vaccinated. Health facilities are recording very low turnout as a result. In his 28th address to the nation, President Akufo-Addo announced that the wearing of face masks as a preventive measure for COVID-19 in public places was no longer compulsory. Additionally, he announced revisions to other existing COVID-19 prevention measures.
From tomorrow, Monday, 28th March, the wearing of face masks is no longer mandatory. I encourage all of you, though, to continue to maintain enhanced hand hygiene practices and avoid overcrowded gatherings. All in-person activities, such as those that take place in churches, mosques, conferences, workshops, private parties and events, cinemas and theaters, may resume at full capacity as long as the audience and all participants are fully vaccinated.
2 months on, Ghanaians appear to be hesitant in taking the vaccines. Only persons who deem it necessary for travel purposes visit health facilities or vaccination centers to get a jab.
Actually, I was embarking on a trip, and then because of that, I need to get vaccinated, so I had to vaccinate.
Earlier, I think it was much earlier when the vaccination started. I just came in around now to come and regularize my card, and then I decided to take the booster shot.
The president has come out that we should not use any nose mask again. But because I'm traveling, I have to cover myself.
At the Adabraka Polyclinic, a nurse at the RCH unit, Justina Issel, laments the slow pace of the vaccination exercise.
With the COVID vaccination, day in, day out, you receive number of people coming in for the COVID from various facilities, various areas where there is no vaccine to be given. There are some areas there is no vaccine available, but here we've made it a static point for vaccination. So most people come here for vaccination almost every day.
She urged Ghanaians not to let their guard down regardless of the ease in restrictions.
We would say we are under less restrictions, so we think COVID is not in the system. It's still there. It's still there. We still have cases. And then even those traveling per se, they might still have more cases concerning COVID. So the best thing is to get vaccinated here so you get protected when you go out there.
According to government, about 14 million Ghanaians have so far been vaccinated. Away from that, General Secretary hopeful of the MPP, Charles Bissiu, says government's passage of the Right to Information Bill has shown commitment towards protecting the rights and freedom of journalists. According to him, critics who say government has failed in ensuring a free press using the 2021 Press Freedom Index are only engaging in propaganda.
This government has actually shown the way. You remember when we had the criminal libel law, which was draconian. When President Kufuor came to the helm of affairs, we actually repealed it. Then the president now was Attorney General then, and he oversaw that and it was assented to. And then journalists could actually freely come out and express their views without the threat of being incarcerated and all that.
Right.
Following that, the Right to Information Bill was also passed. This is a step in the right direction, and this government has actually shown that we would want to work with the fourth estate of the realm. For me, one thing that I've seen that they haven't included as the journalists themselves, the work that they do, because I've seen the police force interdicting their own, the military interdicting their own. We're in a system where the Journalists Association itself, it's a good organization, let me put it that way. But then we still have bad nuts in there. So as we have the civil service and all that, and it's a society that we are all driving at. So I remember a report, I think in the 2021 last year. I'll find the name of that report. It says that about 59% of journalists actually try to misinform and all that.
Right.
So I believe that they should actually angle that into, because for me, certainly I'm an example of front of some journalists which they misinform the general public. And I remember before that Anna's expose, I think Dr. Adam Bona came to my office and spoke to me about security of the office and all that. But then they had to go to ministers and all that. Then that thing came up. So I'm looking at the whole society, how we're driving. Like the government is saying, this is a baseline for it.
National Youth Organizer of the NDC, George Opariado, says the 2021 Press Freedom Index is a true reflection of all the ills being done against journalists under the Akufo-Addo-led government.
We've seen how people have been killed. We saw how Ahmed Swale was gunned down. And we saw how Kaka, who was a social media activist, he may not have been a journalist, but activities that led to his death was because he was out there posting the ills of this government. So we've all seen how these things have played out. So if anybody sits anywhere and says that he's a bit surprised about the issues that came out from these reports, it leaves much to be desired, because every well-meaning Ghanaian knew that where we were heading towards was not what we were promised. If you speak to 10 out of 9, if you speak to 10 journalists, 9 of them will tell you that they are not safe. Not because somebody is running after them, but now they themselves use censorship. And the Constitution talks about censorship. If a journalist is gunned down in broad daylight and is killed because he did a story, and a member of parliament sat on a TV station, called him out and said that when you meet him, assault him. And the president of the republic, who is responsible for our safety, does not make any comment and condemn such a person, and no action is brought against such a person. Clearly, if you're a journalist practicing, you should be worried and concerned. When people are chased out of their offices because they've been critical of government, and when we talk about responsibility, it's being critical of government does not mean you're being irresponsible. When you err, we all support it. Yeah. When people cross the line, we should allow the laws take its course. We all support that. But when abuses take place and we decide to close our eyes because of our affiliations one way or the other, that is where the problem lies. We have failed journalists in this country. In the last 3-4 years, we've seen the worst form of government when it comes to issues of journalism. We've seen our media stations and radio stations have been closed down because they claim they owe.
And the National Youth Organizer of the NDC, George Opariado, again says the Akufo-Addo-led administration has performed poorly in every sector of the economy, reassuring that the NDC, if elected in 2024, will cancel the e-levy, which has brought untoward hardship on Guineans.
It is people who make the difference. So if somebody has been at the ministry for 6 years, and almost every sector under him have seen a decline, in the last 2-3 years, state-owned agencies that were making profits are all losing money, and the same people are still there, then clearly we are lost and we have a problem. The third aspect of all the challenges that confront us is that the president has never accepted responsibility for anything. And anytime there is a problem, he's quick to blame his predecessor. On many occasions, the blame has been President Mahama. A government that after 6 years still blames his predecessor is a government that is bankrupt of ideas. And that is where we find ourselves. So President Mahama, speaking about Ghana at a crossroads, he raised very important points. Let's take basic education, for instance. Curriculum at a basic level have been changed. And you see, we can choose to play politics and do our everyday politics. And we can also face reality. What is the state of Ghana's education under President Akufo-Addo today? So education is suffering. Capitation that goes to basic schools are in arrears over a year. Secondary education, if not for the way they have treated headmasters and the way they have, when Napo was at the ministry and some of the threats that were made, the headmasters, my own school at Isadora College, the headmaster was removed because of certain decisions on free SHS. And a lot of other headmasters have suffered same.
Okay.
But we all admit that secondary education have serious challenges.
Right.
That Charles has come out several times to tell us that if food supplies don't even come in at a certain time, they'll be compelled to close. Go around and look at the food that is being given to secondary schools. And many other issues. In terms of health, health insurance is in arrears over a year. Local governance, today as we speak, CLOSAG is on strike. So every facet of our daily economy is challenged. And that is why he believes we are at a crossroads. And he gave prudent suggestions. Basic, not rocket science. Things that he believes that as a manager of any economy, you must do. A few changes here, tweaking a few things here and there to restore confidence. People work for you. And so whether we want to do the normal politics we do every day, or we'll look at the issues and deal with it and take some words out of it. But I will conclude on e-levy.
Right.
The NDC is not against taxation. But the NDC will cancel e-levy because e-levy is a bad tax. Moreover, when you have 50,000 cedis as your capital and you choose to send it round for business through electronic transfers, immediately you send the 50,000 as your capital to your supplier, you will lose a certain percentage of it, 1.5% of it. Anytime you do that transfer, your capital will be chipping away. You can tax electronic transactions that are done to make profits, but you don't tax capital. And that one, we as a political party have been opposed to it and will continue to oppose it.
Meanwhile, Charles Bissiu, a General Secretary hopeful of the New Patriotic Party, has called on Ghanaians to ignore the rhetorics of the NDC, adding they have nothing to offer Ghanaians. I know. Okay.
So I speak,
yes.
So you know PASCO?
PASCO, yes, that's a past question.
Past exam questions.
Yes.
You know they are never difficult.
Right.
So when you are in an examination condition, it is different from actually coming out of the examination hall.
Right.
And that's what President Muhammad is doing.
I see.
You understand? Because it's like going into a June exam, which you fail, which was the first term.
Right.
And now he's going in for the NOVDEC. He's using the same materials that he failed the June exams with.
Right.
And for Ghana, it's not a country that we can actually play such games with.
Okay.
And that I forgot to do something, and I have to come back and do it. If you're coming back, then we must be serious.
Right.
You know, and there's one thing called goodwill.
Right.
Out of consistency, then goodwill comes in.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So if you look at the history of the NDC,
right,
especially under President Mahama, you remember the NHIS, where they said they were going to do a one-term premium. What happened? It never came to fruition. So it was a talk for you to actually, win political votes. And then you come in. And I remember I'm from the Western region, so I'm passionate about that, where most of Ghana's natural resources emanate from there. Ghana's GDP, the biggest chunk comes from there. And I remember he promised that 10% of the oil revenue will go into Western region. When he said that, I said, this man doesn't know what he's talking about, because our type of governance is a centralized system. It's not federalism, you understand? So whatever you take goes into the center. At the time, we have 10 regions. So if you say 10% of 100%, It's moot, isn't it?
We'll be back from the break with more. Stay with us. Hello again. The Accra Metropolitan Assembly has served notice that it will place a ban on drumming and noise-making from May 9 to June 9. A statement signed by the PRO of the AMA, Gilbert Ni Ankra, urged the public to avoid flouting the various directives and guidelines during a month-long period. Guidelines on the ban, and one says during the period of the ban, churches are expected to carry out the activities within their premises and refrain from the use of musical instruments. 2, the positioning of loudspeakers outside the premises of churches, mosques, and pubs are banned. Roadside evangelists are to cease the activities during this period. And 3, it says religious bodies and the traditional authorities must show respect for one another and restrain their followers from making derogatory and inflammatory remarks about the beliefs and practices of one another. 4, it says other guidelines by the Ga Traditional Council include a ban on funeral rites and their related activities. 5, it says apart from an identifiable task force that consists of AMA personnel, the Ghana Police Service, and representatives from the traditional councils with tags, no other person or group of persons should be seen or found enforcing the abatement of noise in the metropolis. Two other stories, as fishermen at Jamestown have kicked against plans by the Ministry of Fisheries to ban fishing for at least a month. They say the planned closed season over the years have yielded very little results, and as such, they will resist any attempt by the ministry to do so.
This year, the closed fishing season is set to begin from July 1 to August 31. Artisanal and semi-industrial fleets are expected to kickstart the season, while industrial trawlers are to follow suit. According to the Fisheries Ministry, the move forms part of strategies to reduce the excessive pressure and overexploitation of stocks in the marine subsector, which will help replenish the fish stock. At Jamestown, though, the fishermen would have none of that. Some want adequate compensation before observing the closed season, while others believe the move has not yielded the necessary results, hence it should be scrapped completely.
Why I mean no mini profit or na ye insure ngamom wona no go keje no afine wo fe wo le me egba can insure ngamowa.
We don't see the essence of a closed season. We are rather worried about the use of illegal fishing. Again, the use of illegal nets is having a toll on our business. these challenges must be addressed by government.
If you are sure na ka banga, if you are ka nga igba wona, o ta me kuma nuwa ya no ba. O me kuma yen be 5, me kuma yen be 6. Sha sure na kan no ko je ko ba wa.
The closed season is not helping. We have families that needs to be fed. We have also borrowed loans that needs to be paid.
No igba shine na wa. I will at the same time fuel ni wo ka wa. Then be an ta mo wa. Okay, when I get fuel, it go much like 1 tank ba anu apply je show musan.
They want government to clamp down on the use of light to fish.
Angan show ka gbe na ho mo kwa lighting fishing don sinmene ba no bakwe. Angan show mo abu alu na abu alu na ta na me lighting fishing. Lighting fishing lo ni machuoko. Lo ni jame ga nuwa to be kinya lo fin lo ke be. Ni sande ke ba. Ni kankama ye be. Buebue ye be lo fin lo ye be ne keba simbo ne ke fishing lighting fishing ne abomodo na ga light and show me na cho na kan lo ye be ambe ne be sheku.
Every fish is seasonal. We are rather forcing to catch these fishes through illegal means. Laws must also work when it comes to the type of net that needs to be used. We have left all this and rather focusing on closed season.
Ake nature abanya ba domushi no me fe ashi ni aka nshonga momo no okaji ashi aha no die pa na aka ya wo ni nsho akashi ngo kwa aka gbe mi lo ni die pa be ko aka gbe na abu na ata abakusa ka lighting fishing to ala ba zona ne sa ne ba lo aro na abu na ba gbe enyon ko me mi alo nyu die enyon mi ege nsho efe swem e ka sa 6 months no won kenye lo ka je si die minister na mo jipo afi etenu ani ko officer she won naga saga agents ka the grassroots eni ni ejo ni bi na sa na afi oke awo ajeje na sana.
Others are concerned about the pollution of the sea.
It's an interesting resources no go agashi ona bola ni company fe ni fi obola ke votiki fe when aga government take e mimini.
We have to find ways and means of taxing these plastic companies on how well to preserve these plastics, which is killing most of these fishes in the sea. Government needs urgent steps to curtail these problems.
Ne mene tasio ne bi mine ke ama etu amene ke ni me finje show mi ora ni me finje show to ni nu ma ne gbo ko tenike leleji ni jole sin fin bo le la pa jin fin ke vote ki to jin fin ye nu ni fin mi na chu e ha o jin ke ni bi ke botro jin ke ni bi lo e ko me lo jin rubber jin ko me ha lo jin ni gbe a me na ba shu anu na abu no jengbele un.
Already, the fishermen are feeling the impact of the changing weather conditions. On Monday, some of the canoes were destroyed by high tides.
Let's take you to the Ashanti region, where authorities at the Menchia Government Hospital in the region have appealed to government and other benevolent organizations to help reconstruct some dilapidated portions of the facility.
The Menchia Government Hospital was established in 1962 as a primary healthcare facility and later upgraded to a hospital. It is now one of the busiest due to its central location, and it serves both Menchia South and Asawase constituencies in the Ashanti region. But it lacks several infrastructure development. The medical superintendent of the hospital, Dr. Kamaruddin Hussein, called for support.
Look at the pathologists. There are very few in the country. So there are only 2 in the Ghana Health Service. And we have one here, the other one is in Accra. So that one is serving the whole of Ashanti when it comes to, apart from Komfanoche. So apart from that, infrastructure, it is our main challenge that we have. Expansion, we need equipment. We have some equipment, but as when they break down, just because of the sheer number of patients that we see, things seem to break down very often, and we need to be replacing them often.
A German-based medical doctor, Dr. Abbas Ganihu, who supported the hospital with equipment worth €164,000, stated that it was part of his plan to help health facilities across the country improve their services to Ghanaians.
I'm doing it all over in Ghana, Upper East, Upper West, Eastern, Western, Greater Accra, Ashanti. This is, I think, 5th time that I've been in Kumasi. I'm all over. The container that I brought like 5 containers. All our hospital equipment. And I don't want to give it to one person. I'm sharing it all over the country.
On his part, the Member of Parliament for Asawase, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, urged the hospital authorities to make good use of the items.
With all these assorted consumables being handed over to them free of charge, it is our hope that when those who come here and genuinely and truly do not have resources, they should empathize with them and try to support them just as we've been able to support them.
Most people in Ghana have limited access to clean water, especially in rural areas. A great deal of the population relies solely on groundwater for drinking, which, according to scientists, could lead to contaminated water, which could cause dental fluorosis.
Despite numerous local studies by scientists, no spatially continuous picture exists of the fluoride contamination across Ghana, nor is there any estimate of what proportion of the population is potentially exposed to unsafe fluoride levels, although there is the probability of many Ghanaians, including children, exposed to unsafe fluoride levels in drinking water. According to a senior research scientist at CSIR Water, Michael Kumi, research shows that consuming high fluoride water leads to dental fluorosis.
We've undertaken a research on the topic fluoride contamination of groundwater resources in Ghana, a countrywide hazard modeling, and estimated population at risk. So we are looking at the side effects of drinking water that has a high fluoride level. So fluoride levels in water lead to what we call dental fluorosis. In simple terms, you see children with brown teeth, and in serious cases, even you see the enamels broken off. Then we have another situation called skeletal fluorosis, whereby people have their legs twisted.
Michael says approximately 15% of the area of Ghana, mainly in the northeast, has a high probability of fluoride contamination. The total at-risk population is about 920,000 persons, or 3% of the entire population, with an estimated 240,000 children between the ages of 0 to 9 in at-risk areas. In some districts such as Karaga, Gushegu and Tamale, 4 out of 10 children are potentially exposed to fluoride poisoning. Therefore, identifying children who are potentially exposed to unsafe fluoride levels in drinking water is critical in Ghana.
Of eastern parts, they are really affected. And if you go to a district like Karaga district, Gushegu district, and Emio districts, they are, if you take children out of that place, 4 out of 10 people are having dental fluorosis. There's a probability of them getting it. Then if you look at Sabulgo Danton, about 19,000 children are likely to have dental fluorosis based on drinking from high contaminated groundwater level of fluoride.
The spatial distribution of the fluoride contamination in groundwater throughout Ghana is related to the geographical, topographical, and climate characteristics of the country, according to Sunkari et al. 2020.
This is Newsnight. Let's bring you more stories as young persons living in Kaswa are worried about the increasing crime rates in the area. Kaswa has become infamous for criminal activities, and they say this is rubbing off on their image as people are struggling in life.
Kaswa has become infamous for criminal activities in recent times. Some young persons say this negative image is affecting them.
I believe that to every action there's a reaction. And so before one gets up and then do something, that person is affected by the environment, being immediate or otherwise. So I believe that ITY putting this initiative together will brainwash, will educate and enlighten the youth to get to know that no, the things that they do will not benefit them in any way, any form or any sort. So why don't we then live the wayward lifestyle and then follow the right path? That path that will lead us to success and then prosper in life.
Oh, this is where you grow up, and then your crowd or Kaswa. Sometimes it's so alarming. I'm not okay with it, but I believe that there are individuals here who are not like that. But since the average is higher, it's going to continue being like that. And I believe that with time it will change. I have a belief in the future. It will surely change.
Wilfred Kwame Covey founded a non-governmental organization called Inspire Them Young 2 years ago. His outfit has been organizing a series of youth leadership and mentorship seminars to unearth the potentials of the youth of Kasoa.
It's all about believing that we all have an innate potential, inherent in us. So what basically inspired me to come out with this initiative is because I believe that God created everyone with an assignment to fulfill. And for that matter, all we need to do is first of all discover that assignment or discover that purpose that God has blessed us with, and make sure we act upon it.
Bernard Odro-Techi is West Africa Regional Coordinator for Commonwealth Alliance of Young Entrepreneurs Africa. He spoke at the seminar and called on government to roll out youth-driven policies to help them succeed.
The government must tone down on more slogans and be more practical. You see, if you give birth to 10 children and none of them is successful, and somebody give birth to 2 children and they are both successful, which one is sensible? It is not about putting in place flashy programs all over. And at the end of the day, you can't measure, quantify its impact. The wrong I see with this government is that they are trying to front-load a lot of flashy programs to make a name. It is too sloganeering. I will humbly suggest to the government that let the government tone down on the sloganeering and a lot of flashy programs, pick on few programs, be conscious, be deliberate about it, and achieve success.
Let's come back to the capital, where the National Planning Development Commission has engaged youth groups here in Accra. The meeting is to help compile a detailed and all-inclusive report on the progress of the SDGs.
Ghana's 2022 Voluntary National Review Report consultation with youth groups is part of the follow-up and review mechanisms for the SDGs. Member states are encouraged to conduct voluntary, regular and inclusive reviews at the national and sub-national levels to share experiences, including successes, challenges and lessons learned.
There is a gradual improvement, and so if it is sustained and we continue to do as we are doing now, addressing the challenges such as reducing unemployment among the youth, making them have access to the judicial services, and so on and so forth, we should be able to achieve the targets under the SDG goals. There are specific programs for youth and the children for them to also be included in the development agenda. So the youth should involve themselves.
Speaking at the meeting, Pius Enam Hajide, Chief Executive Officer of the National Youth Authority, said the Voluntary National Review Report was a vital tool to track progress being made by countries in attaining the goals.
NVR is an important program because it establishes a framework that involves youth participation in validating on the outcomes as far as the implementation and achievement of the goals of the Sustainable Development Goals are concerned. So the youth themselves, their views on our progress, their aspirations for the future have to be captured, and that's why we are happy that the youth and the children themselves are active participants in all of this process.
And Claire Dufay, UNICEF representative in Ghana, said even though the country has made significant strides towards achieving the SDGs, more investments were required in certain areas such as water, sanitation and education to scale up the attainment process of the 2030 agenda.
Which we know are priorities for young people: education, skills,
jobs and employment opportunities, because we like to hear their voices. They're the agents of change that can make a difference, and so they can actually be the change that they wish to see in the world. And so we encourage a high level of participation.
World leaders in 2015 adopted the SDGs as a successor development agenda to the Millennium Development Goals to address pressing global challenges.
Stay with us because we have more stories coming up for you after the break. Welcome back. Business News is next. In business tonight, the new president for West Africa Insurance Company Association, George Yao Mensah, has promised to present a united front commission where insurance companies licensed in one country can do business in neighboring countries. He disclosed this when he was elected as the new president.
You see, if you look at the Francophone countries, what they call the SEMA zone, they have one commission which sits in Gabon. So once you have license from that particular commission in Gabon, then you can do business in virtually all the Francophone countries, all the SEMA countries. Something of the sort is what WICA will seek to push, so that if I get license from NIC here in Ghana, it grants me the right to write business in Nigeria and vice versa.
The Deputy Minister of Finance, Dr. John Kuma, has inaugurated the governing board of the Ghana Statistical Service and charged the members to provide the needed guidance and assistance to the management of the service.
In a short ceremony, the Deputy Finance Minister, on behalf of the President and the Finance Minister, expressed the appreciation of the ministry to the immediate past board for their guidance that culminated in the conduct of the first digital census in Ghana. He also thanked the government statistician and his team for working tirelessly and smoothly without a governing board for the past 5 months. The inaugural ceremony was conducted in accordance with Section 5, Clause 2 of the Statistical Service Act 2019, Act 1003, which mandates the President of the Republic, in consultation with the Council of State, to appoint members to serve on the governing board of GSS. The board consists of Dr. Grace Bediako, Professor Samuel Kobna Enim, Ashokai Akon, Dr. Evans Agredakon, Dr. Josephine Jahine Kwashi, Philip Bredu Otu, and Professor Robert Dakun Osei. Responding on behalf of the board, Dr. Grace Bediako remarked that they deemed it an honor called upon to serve the country as board members and indicated their readiness to deliver as expected of them.
We'll be back from the break with the latest in sports, entertainment, and international news. Stay tuned. You're welcome back. Sports news is next. In the Premier League Match Day 28, Accra Great Olympics returned to top 4 race after beating Brecum Chelsea 2-0 at the Accra Sports Stadium. Head coach of the Daddy Boys, Arno Walker, was pleased with his team's performance.
I think, first of all, I'll give thanks to my players and to the Almighty. And before the game, when we spoke, I told you it's a match that I have to pick the 3 points because I need to move from where I am and move forward. So it's a well-prepared game after Techiman. We were prepared, we started seriously. until we hear we're playing today, Friday. So, in fact, we even have to slow down because of the time limit. So it's a match that we were really prepared, and you saw it. Tactically, physically, whatever it is, we're ahead of them, and we beat them with, clear goals.
The prestigious Republic Classic Golf Championship has ended at the Bok Nan Kim course near Burma Camp here in Accra. The golf championship attracted some of the nation's finest golfers, and the organizers were pleased with the turnout.
We find that golf is a perfect fit to our bank because it's a very unique sport in the sense that it's one of the few sports in which you play against yourself and not against someone else. With golf, you play with others, but you play against the course, the fairway. And therefore, it is a game that involves your own self-improvement at the sport. We as a bank are very focused on improving the individual. We're very focused at improving the individual's wealth creation by making available products that are beneficial to the individual, the citizen.
Wonderful, actually. It was tough out there today. Coming in, I wasn't sure I was going to do well, but it looks like I made it over the line. I knew it was close. I knew I'd played well, but I wasn't sure if I'd played enough to win it. Coming in, I know a few other people had shot the same scores as me, so I wasn't sure, to be honest with you. It was until it was announced, I wasn't sure that I'd won at all.
Another win, yes. This is about my close to 20, and I'm so glad that I've been away for a long time. About the whole of this year, this is my first competition, and I just won. I'm like, okay.
That's it for sports. Entertainment news is next. Traditional authorities have been called upon to help curb the menace of teenage pregnancy at Efutu in the Central Region. The call was made by the Central Regional Minister Marigold Asan at a ceremony to climax this year's Abuache Festival.
The Winneba Township was brought to life as indigents as well as cultural lovers converge to celebrate the deer hunting festival known as the Abuache. Several activities had already been held as part of this year's celebrations following a 2-year break due to the outbreak of COVID-19. At a ceremony to climax this year's festival, the Efutu Manhin Nenegate VII called on government to help develop the community. He said the provision of a modern market will help expand the local economy.
Possibilities to our community will remain open at all times. This is our dream, to see a strong society that does things with a united front. We hope to achieve our goal of a united cinema soon.
Central Regional Minister Justina Marigold Asan also appealed to traditional authorities to help fight teenage pregnancy in Efutu. Some residents were excited about this year's celebrations.
Because when your mama is near the bar, and I'm going to be at it, I'm on your my fire, my pa. It's a feed and no map for you, my.
International news is next. Let's take you to Afghanistan, where women in that country must cover their faces in public, according to a decree issued by the Taliban on Saturday. The new rule says women must cover their faces, ideally wearing the traditional burqa, according to a statement from the General Directorate of Administrative Affairs. If a woman does not follow the rules, her male guardian will be visited and advised, and eventually jailed and sentenced. Women who work in government offices and do not follow the new decree will be fired. My name is Kenneth Jesse. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.